What up, Blockchain Nation? Hello, YouTube. If you're here to learn about Polkadot, then hopefully you've come to the right place. If you haven't subscribed, please make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can get weekly notifications whenever I release videos. And for those who watch consistently, I want to say a big thank you. You are indeed too kind. So really, what is Polkadot? So before we get into what Polkadot is, let's kind of start from the very, very beginning. The very beginning is the mainstream application called Bitcoin. But arguably, Bitcoin is not really the beginning of the applications of blockchain technology as regards to money. Very long time ago, a very smart guy, sometime in 1983, by the name of David Shawn, created eCash. Now, eCash was very popular. In fact, arguably, at one time, rumor has it that Microsoft even tried to buy the company, and but they didn't sell. They refused to sell. But anyways, that project eventually didn't do so great. But a lot of things that happened with Bitcoin, or happened with Bitcoin, when Satoshi Nakamoto released his white paper in 2008, has a lot to do with the technology and the concepts around eCash. So I guess where eCash failed is where Bitcoin picked up on. So Bitcoin is a great novel concept, but the interesting about Bitcoin is extremely slow. It has its limitations. I've done a lot of videos about this. I'll put some links below. So a community of people came together and said, hey, why is Bitcoin so slow? Well, let's look for how we can improve Bitcoin. The thing about Bitcoin is it keeps all the transactions in a block, and the block size as of this recording is 1 megabyte. So a group of people came together and said, why do we have to have this small 1 megabyte block size? Why don't we just make it bigger? And so a fork, which is taking the Bitcoin network, the code, just the way it is, and creating an alteration to the code. And henceforth, a fork was created from the original Bitcoin, which was Bitcoin Cash. It's 2 megabytes block size and has some other changes as well. So another community of people came together and said, well, 2 megabytes is still a restriction. Why don't we create a larger block size and make it an infinite block size so that you can do as many transactions as possible, which is called the Bitcoin Satoshi's vision. So apart from Bitcoin and its limitations, another group came together to form Ethereum. So Ethereum builds on top of the concepts of Bitcoin, but to add to the fact that it's a store of value, or you can use it for transactions, the concept behind Ethereum was, why don't we build a world computer, kind of like what the internet is supposed to be, more than just using this store of value. Let's be able to build applications above Ethereum. And as you know, there's so many other blockchain concepts that have come out which solve very good problems. You have Cardano, you have so many others. So along the way, we have so many blockchains. So one question has come out. So there's some limitations with blockchain technology. One is scalability. How much resources are spent globally on processing, bandwidth, and storage for the system to process a single transaction? So scalability is a limitation. Another limitation is isolability. Did I say that well? So can the divergent needs of multiple parties and applications be addressed to a near optimal degree under the same framework? Well, I got all these concepts from the Bitcoin Polkadot white paper, which I'll get into. Developability, governance, and applicability. Put definitions here, so you can read those, but I won't go into all those details. Bottom line is there's some limitations with different blockchain networks, but there are limitations, and there's a lot of good things about a lot of blockchain networks. So we have so many networks out there that solve real great problems. So a wonderful team by a man named Gavin Wood, who was part of the Ethereum Foundation, developed Polkadot. So what does Polkadot do? One of the great things about Polkadot is trying to create, there's so many things, forkless and future-proof. I mentioned how Bitcoin has been forked multiple times, security for everyone, user-driven network governance, easy blockchain innovation. But this is the key part that I think is worth why Polkadot was invented, which is true interoperability, which allows all these great blockchains to interact with each other, which is so powerful. So you have you have your Bitcoin, you have your Ethereum, and you have Neo, you have other blockchain networks that are solving very wonderful, complex problems, but they're all sitting on different technology stacks, and they all use different consensus algorithms, and here comes Polkadot to solve this problem. So what really is Polkadot? Well, I'm going to play this short video by the inventor of Polkadot, Dr. Gavin Wood, and I'll just play this and we'll come back to this.
So Polkadot is a multi-chain. The idea is that it's a blockchain, but we bundle lots of different blocks up all at the same time that can be executed in parallel, right? So these things can all be executed at the same time. In doing so, we create this sort of idea of a multi-chain because every block is actually lots of different blocks. Then we can, in principle, run 100 times the amount of transaction throughput that just one chain, like Bitcoin or Ethereum, could.
Powerful. Couldn't have said it better myself. So let's go into the details. So really, if you look at the Polkadot white paper, and I'll just try and explain this at a very, very high level. So by definition, Polkadot is a scalable, heterogeneous, multi-chain. Like Dr. Gavin Wood said, this means that unlike previous blockchain implementations, which have focused on providing a single chain of varying degrees of generality over potential applications, that's a mouthful, Polkadot itself is designed to provide no inherited application functionality at all. Rather, Polkadot provides a bedrock relay chain upon which a large number of validatable, globally coherent dynamic data structures may be hosted side by side, which is powerful. So there's so many things that Polkadot aims to achieve. Transactional scalability, easy blockchain innovation. What this means is it allows, blockchains are very, very complex to build. You have people who are PhD holders who come together to come up with how they work. What's the governance going to be like? What technology stack are we going to use? But Polkadot allows you to build your own blockchain without going into the details of all that headache. And yeah, focus on future-proof and security for everyone. User-driven network governance, which is very important, which we'll go to probably at the end of this. But this is the part that I want to talk about, which is true interoperability. So if you go back to the Polkadot white paper, so one interesting thing about blockchains is because they are decentralized, the question always comes up is, how does everybody on the network agree on the transactions on the network or the state of the network? Unlike centralized system like banks, arguably you have all the records in a central repository, so you can just go into that central repository and say, hey, this is the state, or these are the transactions on this ledger or on this database. But a blockchain is a distributed ledger of assets and transactions that are on a distributed network. So there always has to be a way where people can come into consensus or agreement on the state of the network. So what Polkadot uses is something called proof of stake. Proof of stake is a consensus algorithm, kind of like what Casper is with Ethereum. So Ethereum uses a proof of work consensus algorithm like Bitcoin, but as of the time we're recording this, probably proof of stake might be live. I've done some videos on this. I'll put some links below. Don't panic yet. We'll get into all the details and I'll explain all this at a very, very high level. So Polkadot may be considered equivalent to a set of independent chains. That means containing Ethereum, Ethereum Classic, Namecoin, Bitcoin, except for two very important points: pooled security and trusted free interchain transactability. So let's just go into the network and look at how the network works. So if you look at this, participation in Polkadot, it is great. So there are four basic rules in an upkeep on the Polkadot network: the collateral, the fisherman, and the nominator. Now, I won't go into all the details about this, but just think about this way. So we have the validators. Is the highest charge and helps seal new blocks on the Polkadot network. The validator's role is contingent upon a sufficient high bond being deposited. So, like I mentioned, Ethereum uses something called proof of stake. Stake means I'm staking something, which means I have skin in the game. It's kind of like, imagine the way our current monetary policy is around the world. Like in the United States, we have the Federal Reserve that says, hey, we're going to print more money, we are going to try to curb inflation, and they really don't have anything to gain or lose if it doesn't work well, or besides their reputation. But now imagine if you are the chairman of, just giving an example, don't crucify me if this offends you politically, but let's just say you are the chairman of the Federal Reserve of the United States, and you knew that every decision that you made was going to affect you losing your house, affect you losing your income. That means you have skin in the game. So because you have skin in the game, you would really consider the long-term implications of any decision that you make. So that's how proof of stake works in the Ethereum network or in the Polkadot. Well, proof of stake for Ethereum, if as of the time we're recording this, if Ethereum has finally gone proof of stake, they are transitioning into that as of now. So we have validators who stake. They stake tokens, or they stake, in this case, the governance token for Polkadot, which is DOT, on the network. And so you have your validators, you have your collateral, and then you have your nominators. So if you see what it says here, it says in some cases validators are similar to the mining pools of current proof of work blockchains. So proof of work blockchains have mining pools who are the people who gets to add transactions to the, in the case of the Bitcoin network, but in the case of Polkadot, you have your nominators, you have your validators. So the nominators are similar to the miners of the present-day proof of work network. So I'll just show you a high level what this looks like. So let's just take a look at this diagram. This explains it better than anything I can show you. So if you look at, this is back to the Polkadot official webpage on the technology page. You see where it says the network glossary. It shows the entire network, which is the same as what we have here on the white paper. So take a look at this, and this is what we're going to show you. So we have the relay chain, the parachains, the parathreads, and the bridges. So what's all this? How does this network, the Polkadot network, work? The major goal, what we're trying to achieve here, is interoperability. In terms of the Polkadot network can interact with other blockchains. How does it do that? First, it has, it calls a relay chain, which is this. You see this relay chain, you see this. Oh, sorry, this is the parachain. This is the relay chain. This is the big one. Where all these guys are. These are all the validators. This is the heart. This is like your heart. The heart and soul of the network is here, the relay chain. So the relay chain is responsible for the network's shared security, consensus, and cross-chain interoperability. So it's through this relay chain that it can interact with other blockchains, right? So you have the parachains. These are chains that can have their own tokens and optimize the functioning for specific use cases. So the parachains are what runs in here. So what we mentioned about the fishermen, the where are they? The collateral, the fisherman, and nominator, they all sit here, right here, in this parachain community, where the transactions come in within here, and then all the validation is done here, all the propagation, all the adding to the network. So this guy now sends it, the collateral, which is this, the collateral, sends the transactions right here into the relay chain. So the relay chain, you have the parachains and you have the parathreads. Now they're similar to parachains, but with this pay-as-you-go model. So they are more economical for blockchains. They don't need continuous connectivity to the network. So parachains are kind of expensive, and parachains are sovereign blockchains that have their own tokens. So instead of you, like I said in the beginning, instead of you creating like your own blockchain, you can create or buy a parachain on the Polkadot network. And then we have bridges. So they allow parachains and parathreads to connect with each other, which is right here. So we have the bridge, you have your parachain community, which sits here. You have the heartbeat, which is your relay chain, and you have all your validators here that are validating all the transactions that come into the network. So at a high level, this really is what that is. So finally, you now have your consensus rules, which is what I showed you here. And this explains it much better. If you see this, these are your consensus rules here. Your nominators, they secure the relay chain by selecting trustworthy validators and staking dots. You have your validators, they secure the relay chain by staking dots, validating proofs from collateral. So dot really is the token that sits on the Polkadot network. You have the collators, they maintain shards by collecting shard transactions from users and producing proofs of validators. And then finally we have the fishermen. So all these four guys just help you to achieve consensus. They just help us to achieve or validate or confirm or provide security on the network and make sure that everyone on the network can trust the state of the network, because you have different actors. You have a centralized system like a bank. The only thing you have to do is trust the bank. But for a decentralized system like this, I don't need individuals, because the code itself has set up all these actors on the network. The nominators, the people who validate the blocks, the collaterals, and they all have skin in the game. They are staking tokens or they're staking dots. They lose their dots or they lose their stake or they lose their value if they act in a way that is not or that is compromising the network. So in a nutshell, you have your heartbeat, which is this, your relay chain, your parachains, patterns, and bridges, which is right here. This is the heartbeat of the network that shows you this. And then you now have your consensus rules. Consensus is very, very important. It's the key. How can we trust the state of the network? How can we be sure that the network is doing what it's supposed to do? Because you have consensus rules and you have all these actors on the network. And so it allows interoperability is the most important thing. So that way you can have all these chains, whether it's Bitcoin, whether it's Ethereum, whether it's all the rest, but they can all work together because of the way the network is designed. Yeah, so it's a very, very, in my opinion, detailed write-up. So I guess you can read more to get more details about that. So lastly, we have governance. So governance is a great topic. Elected to represent passive stakeholders in 2 primary governance rules, proposing and vetoing dangerous or malicious referenda. So everybody has, it's a network that runs, but in order to, I'll just show that real quick, power the Polkadot network, governance is a very, very, very important piece. So token holders have complete control over the protocol. All privileges which on other platforms are exclusive to miners will be given to the relay chain participators, which are the DOT holders, including managing exceptional events such as protocol upgrades and fixes. So unlike other networks where people begin to argue like Bitcoin and say, no, we want Satoshi's vision, or we want this, or we want that, in the case of a system like this, which is good, people who get to decide or get to govern the network are people who hold DOT, which is the token or the currency for the Polkadot network. So it allows people to be more objective in making decisions because they hold tokens. It's like maybe you receive an inheritance, or you inherit a very large company, and you own 30%, 40%, 50% of that company. Any decision that you make, you want to make that decision in the best interest of the company, because you do not want to lose the company. Because let's say your entire fortune is tied to that, as opposed to like the example I gave in the beginning. If I'm the Federal Reserve or some central bank managing director, and I'm just making decisions from what I think is best for my own economic perspective, not that I'm trying to destroy the network, or not that I'm trying to destroy the economy, but if I have skin in the game, I would be more careful and more thorough in making those decisions. So that's what governance really means. So we have governance, we have staking, we have bonding. This also helps to power the Polkadot network. So it's great. I think it's a great project. I think it's a very, very exciting one. I think they're doing great work. And yeah, so I'll just play out this. I love the way this ends. I'll just play this video by Dr. Gavin Wood again. And yeah, watch this.
This basically allows every coder to also be a businessman. They just place an algorithmic service online, and it's a self-sovereign, autonomous, economically strong business. You heard the phrase like, the pen is mightier than the sword. Well, you know, the keyboard's going to become even mightier than the pen pretty soon. The world, in some sense, belongs to coders.
So, I mean, it's a great idea. It's a great project, in my opinion. And these are very, very, very brilliant people behind this. So it's very exciting to see how this is going to turn out. So that is all I have. So till next time, my wish for you is that you learn more about blockchain technology, because blockchain is changing and will change the world. And those who get involved early, in my personal opinion, will greatly impact the future. And if that's you, then let's go change the world.